Do you want more? More time, more balance, more love, more sex, more money, more real, and less bullshit? This is the Women Wanting More podcast with Dr. Karen Osborne. Real life, real stories, plus real tips to get you more of what you want.
Oh boy, sister, I have not recorded a podcast episode for like 2 weeks. The last couple weeks that you have been listening to, if this is, you've been listening to the podcast for a while, and if you haven't, this is your first episode, welcome. Thank you for being here. The last few weeks I had done up in advance because my husband and I were on a date week, so just him and I for a week last week in Maui, and so I had to get stuff all prepared in advance, which is all good. So let me share with you an interesting revelation I had as I was dropping off my oldest son, Tyson, at his day camp today. So both of my boys are in summer camps. Kai actually is my youngest. He's almost 5. And so for the little guys, they have like half days. And then he's with the babysitter the other half of the day. He's having a great time. Tyson's got different summer camps, having a blast. And so we had him signed up for this sailing camp. So we live here in Victoria, BC, Canada. It's on Vancouver Island, so we live on an island. The ocean's just literally across the street. We can see it out our front window. We've got a beach there. And so there was an opportunity to do one of the camps, which was a sailing camp. And I was like, so in May, we're looking at camps and signing them up and stuff. And I said, what do you think about sailing camps? He's like, oh, I'd love to do that. And I go, great. And so I take a look, and it's like ages 6 to 11. It's a big age range. I should know when I start to see things where it's a big age range. I'd say that Tyson is definitely, I don't know if he's not as mature. He's a 7.5-year-old boy, right? They're just goofy kids, hard to focus sometimes. Like, he's just doing his thing. And especially for Tyson as well, too. Actually, he's probably a little bit more maybe than some other kids, but take that back. But so the sailing camp, we needed to get to level 4 with his swimming. He worked really hard. Literally the last lesson at the end of June before we rolled into summer camp starting in July, he reached level 4. And we're like, oh, you did it, buddy. So awesome. So we get to the sailing camp on Monday, and I'm thinking, it's all good. Last year we had a rough summer with summer camps. Tyson was asked to leave 3 or 4. Now knowing that Tyson's dyslexic, and there's some things that kind of come along with having a dyslexic brain that we've learned some tools to really help him. It's made a significant difference, but like consequences is a hard thing. Not necessarily paying attention and focusing, but awareness of like other things around you. He's a little bit in his own world sometimes. And so that makes sometimes group interaction challenging for him. And what you'll see is a kid who's acting out. This is not to excuse his behavior. It's just to understand, we just know this is the way Tyson is. When we were doing group swimming lessons, it was a shit show. For him, all the other kids, the teacher, nobody, Tyson didn't learn. The other kids were learning. And so as soon as we put him into private swim classes, we're like, oh my God, this is what he needs, right? So really, the reason I'm calling this episode is to know your children. Know your kids. Which means you got to know yourself first. But here's what happens. So we get to the sailing camp. Everything's cool. The first day was on Monday. It's a 5-day, Monday to Friday. I get a call about 1 o'clock. Tyson's been doing this. He's been doing that. He's running off. He's not listening. He's giving us attitude. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, not cool. Thank you for the call. What would you like me to do? Do you want me to come pick him up? Does he get, does the consequence now he doesn't get to finish out the rest of the day? They go, no, we want to really work with him. They were great. And so I went, okay, let's, let me, I'm 5 minutes away from where you are. Let me come out to the marina. Let me talk to Tyson. Okay. So I come out and we have a chat about stuff, and he's denying, but I think honestly for Tyson, he is at time head in the clouds. He literally will forget stuff. And so when he's like, no, that didn't happen. He's not a kid who's lying. He just literally doesn't remember stuff sometimes. He'll just be like, it's done, it's in the past. He won't. And then sometimes she'll be like, well, Tyson, remember this? He'll be like, oh yeah. That's just the way his brain is. It's okay. Again, we're learning ways to really work with that, right? And so So I talked to him. We make some agreements. I'm like, okay. I get a call again. So this was like 1:00. I get a call again, maybe, let me think, an hour and a half later. I'm like, listen, as soon as you left, it went right back to the same things again. I'm like, okay. They go, well, we're going to go out in the boat one other time, because they're teaching them how to sail, right? So there's some kind of land stuff that they do, and then they go in the boat and they use their skills, and they said, listen, any other camp, not an issue. We'll have one kind of with them. But when he's kind of just been like this erratic and we're in a boat in the ocean, now there's just like, we have to have a little bit more strict stuff with this because of safety, right? Like, it makes sense. And they were really apologetic, and I'm like, listen, I totally appreciate it. You don't have to apologize. He's learning consequences. Like, you can't behave this way and then be on the boat. And so they even said, well, we're going to put him in the motorboat. Because I said, if you make it where it's like he gets like a special job and he gets something to focus on, I said, that really helps. Like, teachers will do it with Tyson. It really helps him to be able to keep moving forward with the rest of the group. Well, he wouldn't want to get in the motorboat where the coaches were. He wanted to go in the boat with the rest of the kids. And so it just didn't work out. So I went and picked him up. So they're like, listen, we're talking to the program director. We'd like to we want Tyson to be in the camp. Like, we don't like doing this. This is not a typical thing that's done. But it is a safety thing since we're out on a boat. And they said, we'd like Tyson to come back tomorrow and maybe just having kind of like an off day. And I'm like, okay. So Tyson and I go home. We talk about it. We talk about making better choices, what we can do instead. I'm super calm about it. And in the past, I'd be like, you did this, you did that. Like, there were definitely a few moments later in that day where he's kind of being like a little snarky. And I just said, listen, dude, you were so lucky I didn't like freak out on you. Mommy's been really calm. Like, that stuff you're doing right now, it's a no. Mommy's been dealing with enough stuff today. So next day, Tuesday, new agreements. I'm like, okay. Because Tyson had a camp kind of earlier this month that there was a challenge on the first day. And so they did a thing. They said, listen, we're going to do like a 3 strikes. Tyson knows that, like, if he's not listening one time or if he's, whatever he's doing, bugging a kid or something, there's 2 strikes and then 3 strikes, and that means that mommy has to pick you up. You can't remain in the camp for the rest of the day. So, and that really worked. The next day, we had to talk about it a couple times. The night before, that morning, as I got to the camp, and they're like, I don't know what you said to him, but oh my God, like, he's just a different kid. I'm like, they just, kids are going to make mistakes. They're like adults too. Like, it's okay. And I appreciate those are kind of part of my village in raising my children that understand that. Don't go, no, but he did this and he shouldn't. No, it's like, listen, they're kids. They're pushing boundaries. This is what they do. This is how they learn. They're going to make mistakes. It's not about them making the mistake. It's about what they learn in that moment. And you hear that for yourself now too, sister. It is easy to beat ourselves up for the mistakes that we made. We are imperfect. It is who we are as human beings. And the sooner that we understand that about ourselves, I think also too, the sooner that our kids see that and they understand that, God, I'm going to screw up sometimes, but that's okay because I'm going to learn something from the experience and I can choose something different, right? Like, we learn so much in times of failure. And so as much as it's challenging as a parent when these things come up, I almost kind of go like, okay, this is good. Like that teaching moment, right? That like, because I'm always looking for ways to do that with the kids. This is what I feel is the most important thing. Yes, manners, less the learning stuff in school. Yes, all of that. But like, this is about how to adapt to things. This is about understanding how to interact with the world. This is about kindness and respect and love. These are the things that I teach. I don't expect anybody, including teachers in school, to teach my kids these things. They can be a piece of it, but that is my gig. That is my responsibility. That is my honor to do that as their mother. So day 2, have the agreements. We go back and there's no phone call. And I'm literally, I kid you not, like I'm actually prayed probably 3 or 4 times that day, yesterday. Going like, and let me just like release all this stuff I'm feeling. I'm just going to let go of the stress I'm feeling, the anxiety, I don't trust Tyson. Like, we can make this work. I'm not going to see him with how he was yesterday. I'm going to see him as how I know he can be, which is an amazing, loving, fun-loving, goofy, incredible kid. Bright, like, awesome. And so I pick him up thinking everything's cool because there's been no phone call, right? And they're like, the counselor calls like, hey, Karen, like, I got to talk to you. Come on over here, like in private kind of thing. So same stuff going on, right? And, he's like literally feeling, so another counselor comes by, they're like, we feel horrible. Like, we don't want to do this. And I'm like, no, but again, he's understanding consequences, right? And so they were kind enough to say, hey, let's find another camp for Tyson for the rest of the week. Tyson's in one at our rec center, which is called Skedaddle, which is they just do a whole bunch of different things. They're going to swim today. We're looking at the schedule. They're going to do scavenger hunt. So they just do, it's not like a theme kind of based camp like the sailing was, or he did a golf and a swim, and other ones like they're just hanging out at the rec center. They're going on walks. They're heading to the beach. They're going to the pool, like just doing normal kid summer stuff, right? Like cool. And Tyson was like pumped. Like, we're going to see if we have a spot. They called me, said we can put him in here. What do you think? And I go, that would be amazing. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And so I reflected on this a lot, right? And again, I'm proud of myself because I didn't react and freak out. I didn't go, oh my God, here we go again, just like last summer. I'm going to get phone calls. Like, there was none of those things. And so I'm number one, reflected on, I'm proud of the way that I showed up for my son. And he knows that in times of screwing up that there's going to be consequences, but there doesn't have to be anger in that, right? There can be, results of what the choices that he's made, but it doesn't have to be frustration and raising my voice with him. Like, none of that shit needs to happen. But what I really reflected on is I'm dropping Tyson off this morning, and it was actually in a different part of the rec center this time for this Skedaddle day camp. And it's this huge room, and they got foosball, and the kids are playing, and some are reading, and some space. And I'm like, you know what? I'm like, Tyson's in his element in this. The very structured kind of stuff, which they did with the sailing camp, cool, but it doesn't work for my child. I know this. I know that for where he is right now in his development, he needs open space. He needs to be able to literally space and not have it so regimented and structured. That's just really how he thrives best. And so my purpose of getting on and sharing this with you today is I think it's so easy for us as parents, as mothers, as fathers, and a lot of men listen to podcasts as well, to kind of imprint how we think our child should be or how we are, how we see the world. Not how our children do. And listen, with love, mama, with love, daddy, the greatest gift you can give your child is to accept him for who they are. Accept them for who they are. Not who you think they're supposed to be. Not how you think that they're supposed to show up, but who they are. And so I accept that about my son. I know that right now, the structured stuff, it doesn't work. Because he's like, Mommy, I really did like that sailing camp. I'm like, I know you did, buddy. Try next year. It's okay. We're going to do what's really best for you. So here's your more tip for you today then. I want you to really take a look at your kids and do this without guilt, without, shame or feeling badly about maybe how you've shown up. Listen, we all make mistakes as parents. We are imperfect as human beings, and that also means as a parent, there's nothing wrong with our kids seeing that, realizing that, talking about that. It gives them the permission to be imperfect too, and for them to know that this isn't about showing up perfectly in life. The human experience is about being imperfect. It's what we learn from these experiences. So when you look at your kids, I want you just to, and you know what, journal this, because written down is a really greater meaning. It's to journal this of how do you really see your kids? How would you describe them? So number one is to journal this, if someone was to say, what's your kid like, and what kind of things are they interested in, and who are they? What would that be? And I know you got lots of things that you can do that you talk about your child, right? So whether you have one or multiple kids, just with your children, how would you describe your children? And number two, are you being there for a parent with them that really honors who they are? And I say this with absolute love, kindness, and respect. Not a guilt trip, not a blame, shame, none of that shit, but just listen, there's times that I show up for my kids and I'm like, that's not how I want to actually show up for my children right now. I'm not honoring who they are. Well, I'm putting Tyson into something that's really structured, even though he says he really wants to. There's a piece of me that kind of went like, ooh, sailing camp. A lot of learning stuff, a lot of I don't know if this is really going to work for him, but he really wants to do it. So I want him to do what, he really wants to do. So the second piece of this is after you describe who your child is are you parenting in a way that really honors them, honors their soul, honors who they are? And if not, what are things that you can do that begin to change that? What are things that you can do? And, it can just be something of just that consciousness of being more intentional with really respecting and honoring who they are. We all have this story at some point in our lives that nobody gets us, that people misunderstand us. And this is a time for us to create something different for our children from the get, right? What a beautiful gift that we can do for them as parents. So there's only one thing I'm going to direct you to right now then, sister, which is to make sure to join the newsletter. Right now, all of my coaching programs outside the sisterhood are paused. I'm doing a lot of reflecting, creating a lot of space, really feeling a shift with Women Wanting More. And I'm honored that you're here and you witness to be a part of that. And so the newsletter is going to keep you in the loop with that. Plus, I'm writing a book right now. I have no idea when it's coming out, but you'll find out first in the newsletter. So if you don't already subscribe to the newsletter, which also means you're going to get all the podcast episodes delivered to your inbox with all the show notes, I want you to head over right now to drkarenosborn.com/action guide, and I'm going to send you some cool gifts when you sign up for the newsletter as well. So I'll talk to you in the next episode, sister. A life of more is just one step away from you doing the fucking work every single day. I love and appreciate you.
To get the show notes of each Women Wanting More episode, including the How to Get More tip, subscribe to the newsletter at drkarenosborn.com/newsletter.